Okay, so the interesting thing about the little two green children of Woolpit, the boy and the girl, who is interesting that, well, it doesn't matter that it exists or that it's true or not. What is interesting is that it's a story that even exists anyway. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter, right? That's kind of the
Like where they came from, or
that's kind of the answer of the universe we got to in the last 2 episodes. Is we basically came to circle spectrum, the universe existing. Oh, it doesn't really matter what the existence of anything is. It just matters that it exists, and that's interesting. So let's move on and be like, well, if it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that the story is real or not. The story exists in some form, nonfiction or fiction. Now that's interesting and significant because what does it mean, right? Maybe like the Greek and Roman gods, right? They came up with the Greek and Roman god stories to try to explain the universe to themselves at that time within their human context that the Greek and Romans were living in at the time, right? They were using the Greek and Romans because that's something they didn't really teach me in school. We were taught about the Greek and Roman gods, right? But what I realized years later after high school was that, oh wait, the people at that time really believed this was true. I always thought humans believed it as a fairy tale. That's not true. The Greek and Roman gods really believed the Greek and Roman gods were real at the time, right? So the point is that humans, over our evolution, explain the universe to themselves in evolved ways, right? Then the next evolution was the religions we have right now, right? Maybe the green little children teleporting from the earth, wherever they came from,
but how
was
do you
the
know?
dimensions trying to communicate with each other in some way. So whether the story is true or not doesn't matter, right? The fact that it exists even as a fictional story, right? The fantasies we can think of that validates everything I've ever said about the universe, that we are intelligently designed by something in the universe, whether it's just the universe's black existence itself, that has all the power. It matters. Is like, oh, Brady, are you gonna go on your phone or not? Should I just do another podcast?
No, I'm.
Well, Brady, you have to listen to me to respond because you were a good devil's advocate, and then that was always a funny moment. We high-fived. Like, do you want to do that or not?
Sorry, I was just looking at the.
It's
inner
fine
Earth
if you
thing,
don't. But
and like people,
what thing?
The inner Earth. That's where I found out about the green people is from looking.
Oh,
at
right, the inner
from...
Earth, right? All these stories, right? The idea of fantasy.
Sorry, I'm not constantly paying attention to you. You fucking.
Exactly, that's true. But it's just fine. No, it doesn't matter. We can do a podcast later. It's fine if you want to do other things, but because you're right, it's getting boring maybe after 3 hours.
No, but, I'm just looking for more content for the podcast.
No, right, but let's discuss it right now and then come back to it. But that's a good thing. Whether the Earth, the Middle Earth, whether it's real or not doesn't matter. The fact that it's an idea is very significant. And the fact that we have fantasies in our head,
other dimensions.
Yeah, the fact that there's fantasies in our head, yeah, maybe those are the way we communicate with the other dimensions, the other connected universes within our universe, right? Mm-hmm. And so, the little green children, to me, whether it's true or not, great. That would be very interesting if it was true. That'd be amazing. But the fact that it's maybe not true and it's even fiction, that's still amazing. It still exists as a story. The fantasies in our head, the fact that they exist, that's fucking amazing because those don't exist within the context of our reality. Yeah. They exist in the context of our mental reality.
And this happened in the 12th century.
Right, or whether they made up the story or whether it was real happened in the 12th century, right?
Yeah.
Just to squash the limiting argument of whether it's real or not doesn't matter. Let's talk about the context of it even existing as a story, fiction or nonfiction. Yeah. That's significant and really interesting. Because that brings me back to my idea of when I said the reason I believe everything I've ever said is the fact that we have fantasies in our head that can't manifest themselves within our reality, only within the terms of a movie, which in a way is a manifestation of our reality. So it might as well be real, right?
Yeah.
The idea that somebody is racist, right, is like they're living in the context of being racist in a weird way that makes that racism thing in their context of their life real, which is why racism is such a complicated issue, because to some people it's real, and that's what makes it such a hard human thing. And that's why you should just live and evolve that all humans are equal with the same potential, because that's really what's going on. And the racism is just a limitation of our existence and part of our evolution that we go through. I'm just an amazing person at the end of the evolution,
and part of wanting control.
Yeah, and I'm just one of the weird people at the end of the evolution who knows that it's bullshit. And you're right, I'm past all that. We're talking about on another plane. We're part of the next generation of people after organized religion explaining itself to the world, right? So
after looking beyond, like, we're looking beyond people's skin color, beyond the surface.
Yeah, and so the little green children are an example of dimensions. One of two things are happening, maybe both are happening. Our dimensions are communicating with each other in some way, right? Whether they're aliens or not, is dimensions communicating within the context of one huge universe, or it's a made-up story and somebody's explaining their existence to themselves in a more evolved way past organized religion and kind of what we're doing right now, trying to explain things on a higher level of what we think is a higher level of evolution.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We're all in the same existence of the circle of the universe. Doesn't matter where we're on the circle. We're going to be at some point along the way. So crazy, right?
Yeah.
That this is what's going on. For me, this is really what's going on in the universe. Like, for me, this is not an opinion. This is a fact. But at the same time, I don't want people following me as if I'm a prophet who knows what the next evolutionary godlike religion is. Do you know what I mean?
But that's only...
It's an evolution I want to go
because
past.
you think everything that you think is right. That's why.
Because humans are driven by ego.
Right.
In the context of what we live in, the way we constantly exist throughout history, have sex and populate and constantly exist, that's our ego constantly going through that cycle. So right, as a human, you're definitely right. I'm being egotistical right now. But at the same time, I want to subvert that egotism and say, don't follow me as a prophet of a religion right now. I might be sounding like one, but don't fucking treat me like one. Do you know what I mean? Don't treat me like a Jesus figure, a Messiah figure.
Right.
Because that's going way fucking... Like, that's my ego talking right there. I fucking see myself as a Messiah. Fucking crazy ass, Charles Manson said he was Jesus. That's fucking crazy. But that's what I'm saying. Don't treat me like a Messiah. I'm not a Messiah. I'm not Jesus.
You just think everything that you think is right.
I'm projecting the limitations of what I think other people are going to project onto me. Some crazy idiot's going to come along and be like, Rhett Sever is the next Messiah. He knows the answers. Don't do that. I'm saying I am not a Messiah.
Yeah.
Do not treat me like that.
He just thinks that everything he says is right.
Right. I'm just like being this like amazing egotistical thing, thinking I could be a Messiah.
He's just narcissistic.
But I'm saying, right, I'm narcissistic, but I want to subvert that narcissism because I know something in my universal existence is telling me that's limiting and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
To be narcissistic. So don't follow me as Messiah. What the fuck am I thinking I could be a fucking Messiah for? Like, fuck you.
But the fact that you're smiling right now makes me wonder if you actually think that you could be.
Patriarchy is a bitch. Devil's advocate. High five. I love it. I think this is going to be a new hit podcast.
I think so.
My limiting ego says.
Or maybe that's your positive
energy within context of existing. Our human, right? Our source
telling you that, yeah,
as
long as you're having fun and
our source telling us to
with
evolve
the flow and being happy.
our source telling us
You'll
to
be
evolve
successful.
and work against the positive and negative.
Not work against anything. Just go with the flow.
Well, no,
period.
right. Positive and negative forces are equaling each other out in the universe. That's why they exist. Right.
Or does positive and negative even exist?
That's true, because negativity, when something negative happens, a lot of good happens after it. So negativity is like it's just a conduit for positivity.
It's just what we label it. It's just what we label it.
Right, it's what we label it within the context of our limiting language.
Yeah, because how do you know if something is actually negative? Because whatever that situation is that you're labeling negative,
right,
makes you have a different view on the world no matter what.
Right.
The outcome of it always makes you have a different view on the world to appreciate something else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So does that make that thing bad then? Because it made you see something good.
Right.
Like it made you evolve.
Exactly.
So how is something bad if it makes you evolve?
Right, exactly. And I always ask myself this question, but then it makes me realize, like, wait a minute, why am I arguing that bad things are good? That makes everybody thinks I'm going to be like a killer, murderer, criminal. And I'm now justifying all these bad things with this positive negative argument, but that's not what I'm doing. Yeah. I still want to evolve positively with my source, but seeing negative as a backdrop of how we appreciate positivity isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, but see, you're still compartmentalizing it, Rhett, into positive
No, it's all
negative.
still one universe. But You're right. It's two different dimensions in a universe, positive and negative. You're right.
That's the thing. I'm telling you, there is no positive, there is no negative.
That's true. It's a limitation of our language.
Keep on, yeah.
It's a limitation of our language. No, you're right. You're complete devil's advocate. High five. That's true. That's amazing what you just said. That's why I brought a woman to clean the kitchen on with this podcast.
Oh, wow.
No, that was an ironic joke about how that's the context of our egos that we live in, where I'm a man, you're a woman.
So now, not only do I have to clean the kitchen in real life every day in our apartment, but you're also going to make me clean the kitchen on this fucking podcast, you little bitch.
Yes, let's talk about sexism. So sexism, like racism, is another thing that's limiting within our context and stupid and pointless and dumb. I've evolved past that.
I'm glad you've evolved past that, because I still have an issue with you not cleaning the kitchen.
Exactly. And so...
Oh, wow!
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. No, that's true. With sexism, it's like racism. It's just people limiting themselves. Their ego is saying, no, I'm better than you. But really, it's like we're all one potentially equal. Well, actually, you know why they ask the question, are women smarter than men? Do you know why they even ask that? Because in a way, women... But do you know why women are smarter than men? Because they've had to deal with the oppression of being a second-class citizen to men. Mm-hmm. So in terms of that sexism, they've had to mentally have to evolve through the hardship of that oppression. It's like when you work out at the gym. Your muscles are building because it's the scar tissue of the burn you feel lifting the weight, right? So the weight is sexism. And the muscle that women are building is that question of, wait, are women seem smarter than men? It's not because women maybe are superior to men, but they've evolved past men because they've had to deal with oppression. So everybody has the same equal potential, right? But
we can't ever be superior. Is that what you just fucking said?
In terms of what evolution of oppression has done to you. Right. You're superior in the context of oppression working you out at the gym to make your intelligence muscle bigger.
Oh, okay. Got you.
It's an analogy, right?
But we'll never be seen as superior. Is that what you're saying?
Cutting the infinity strip analogy, right? Is the universe, right? No, I'm saying women and men are equal, but because men decided to oppress women... That oppression, Brady, right? That oppression made them have to mentally evolve out of that. It's like with slavery and why there's a lot of black athletes. There's a disproportionate amount of black athletes in sports because slavery quickened their evolutionary physicality with doing physical manual work.
You don't think they were already physically superior in the first place?
They could have been. Who knows? But the point is, and
they were just displaced here.
Well,
so
what's interesting?
So many here.
What's interesting is what percentage of black people are in sports. It's probably a higher number than the percentage of black people population of the world, right? And that disproportionate proves that oppression is like working out at the gym, building your muscle of intelligence, physicality, what have you, whatever your oppression is based on, right? Mental or physical. I would say sexism is a more mental oppression. It's a physical oppression, of course, as well, but it's a mental and physical oppression. Slavery also was a mental and physical oppression, but slavery was more physical, sexism more mental. Would you say that's true? Probably. Yeah, that's probably true. Which is why they say, are women smarter than men? Well, yeah, because they've had to mentally evolve through the process of being oppressed for their sex. So they're going to mentally evolve past men, which is why there's the show Pose. That's what we talked about on the transgender podcast.
Do you think that's why we're more emotional?
Yeah, maybe it's
or
intelligence.
Is that just our
maybe that's
physical
intelligence.
Makeup?
It's more, it's about, men and women are different, but they're equal in terms of, and what's funny about that is that I think we're all a mixture of men and women. Mm-hmm. We're all a mixture of some combination.
Well, we are all a mixture of men and women.
Right, because the X and Y chromosome. Yeah. Well, no, right, but women only have XX. But still, that's still a chromosome within the context of my chromosome.
No. Every egg is an X. It's only the sperms that are X and Y. Right,
and all eggs are XX.
All eggs are X. A girl is an XX.
Just one X, right.
A boy is an XY.
Right, and the sperms are...
So, technically...
Wait, sperms are either an X or a Y?
Yeah, sperms are either an X or a Y. So, technically...
I'm part female.
Everybody starts off...
My sperms are female.
As a woman.
So, it's the man that is determining whether it's a male or female.
The man determines the sex, yeah. Because sperms are...
Which they genetically say that the Y chromosome is actually a mutation that evolved through the X chromosome's history in order to reproduce with itself, in order to reproduce. So men is like a mutation off women.
So you think the whole Adam and Eve thing is made up because men just want to feel superior and men...
Because they're insecure about
Because it's actually the opposite and men come from women because the X is a woman and...
That could be completely what's going on.
Oh my God.
But that's just the way the universe set it up as an interesting way to evolve through history.
That's just the way that men changed it to oppress women.
Exactly. Yes, you're right.
No, women came from men. You guys came from our rib. No.
Yes, exactly. You're right. Men came from women. Because the Y chromosome...
evolved from the X
Because there's more X's, right? There's more X's.
There's more X's than Y's, yeah.
The Y's are only there so they can reproduce. Right. And so then maybe you could say men... dominated women throughout history and oppressed them as an insecurity because they were insecure about being the deformality of the sexes. So they were like, fuck you, asshole, for being superior. You know what I mean? But then but even though maybe let's argue, let's say women were superior, equal, doesn't matter, right? The fact is if we were equal or whether you're superior doesn't matter. The fact is our oppression also made women a little superior in terms of their mentality because they were oppressed. Just the fact they're oppressed, they have to then, right, that muscle's being worked out at the gym, right? it's gonna grow and become superior. That's why there's that new age question. Wait a minute, are women smarter than men? People are asking themselves that because women were oppressed. So the point is sexism, racism, you got to evolve past that, people. It's bullshit. Yeah. We're all equal. We all have equal potential. We are not created equally, but that's on an individual basis. We're not created equally. Our equality has no bearing on our demographic that we're in. Sex, gender, race. Right. There, superiority, inferiority has no bearing on demographics. It's on an individual basis, which is why people should know all these isms of hate are bullshit based on there could be a straight white male who's cis, CIS anyway.
What the fuck is cis?
It means non-trans.
Why don't you just say non-trans? What does cis stand for?
Okay,
where did
let me
it come
explain.
From? How did it
Let me
form?
explain. Because you could be a trans person, even though they're trans, they a lot of them feel either male or female, right? Okay. So they're still male or female.
Okay.
So then you could say, I'm a straight white man.
Okay.
But I'm trans.
So where
you could be a straight white male.
Cis
trans.
Come from? Where did the word cis come from?
Because to differentiate between straight white male, transgender, straight white male, cis. Meaning they didn't come from a trans position. They came from, I'm just male. I started off as male. It's very simple, Brady. It's like breathing the air. It's like with...
But why do they say cis?
Right, because it's redundant. I get that. You're saying it's redundant, right?
Who made that up? And why?
Exactly. I was wondering the same thing because it seems redundant, right? It's redundant because... Well, it's not redundant because it's coming from the trans perspective.
And you said it's CIS?
CIS.
Is that short for something? Does it stand for something?
Maybe. I'm not that smart.
Look it up. Because I need to know.
Jesus, Brady, settle down. Brady is having a cis emergency right now. Cis meaning. The prefix, it is a bigger word. Okay. The prefix cis means on the same side as. So while people who are transgender move across genders, people who are cisgender remain on the same side of the gender they were initially identified as at birth. Because you can be a straight white male, right? Oh, I was born with a vagina, but I identify as a straight white male.
So that's not cis.
Right. You're a straight white male trans. Or you're a straight white male cis. As in you started off and are ending as a male. You're on the same side as male. Always. You were always male. You were never female.
Oh, okay, but you're gay.
Whether you're gay or straight, that's another spectrum. There's sex in terms of do I have a penis or a vagina, or am I a hermaphrodite, combination of both. That's the spectrum with the least amount of sections. Then you have
So read that again. Cis is
on the same side as.
It's what did you call it? It's a what?
Cisgender.
No, the name of the word?
The prefix.
It's a prefix?
Yes.
Yeah, prefix means...
on the same side as gender. So cisgender.
So what's the whole word?
Cisgender.
Cisgender.
I'm on the same side as this gender. I've always been on this side. I've always been a male. I never came from a female perspective. And then became male. I've always...
So I'm cisgender.
Yes.
Oh,
Brady is cisgender.
Oh, okay.
Because you're not a female that was born with a penis, basically.
Right,
basically, you identify as a female and you weren't born with a penis.
Okay.
Because there are females who are born with a penis. They
right.
emotionally identify as a female, but oh my God, why do I have a penis?
Yeah, okay.
No, that's why transgender is such a hot button issue right now, because people are finally learning about it. Mm-hmm. After all these hundreds of years that we tried to suppress it. Their quote unquote grossness that we've tried to just forget about it as a human race and not talk about it, we're finally talking about it. That's part of our evolution as humans right now.
Right.
We're starting to talk about and learn about. You just learned what cisgender means.
I know.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
That shouldn't have.
I've never heard this.
That should have never happened, right? You should have known that. For what you're saying.
I never knew I was cisgender.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with sounding like sister. Female. Do you know what I mean?
I'm like, wait, is this a new word? How long has this word been around?
Right. It's an old word, but it's a new consciousness that's finally being used in a massive way.
Right.
Because of social media. And everybody is seeing all these different human experiences on their fucking phone all the time.
It wasn't just like...
Who cares when it was made up? It was made up to describe something, the limitations of our human language.
I was wondering, like, was it around when I was in school?
Yes, it was. It just wasn't used a lot. Oh. It's like Brady. It's like the Christians. They were a cult for the first 1,000 years. They weren't a mainstream religion for not till 1,000 years after Jesus. You knew that, right? Christians were a cult for 1,000 years. They didn't know what their cisgender... in terms of the analogy I'm making right now, they didn't know what their cisgender meant for 1,000 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, the mainstream religion of Christianity, people didn't know that till 1,000 years after Jesus.
Oh, wow.
It was a cult. That's what happens when your cult goes mainstream. You gotta take out the crazies. Let's legitimize our shit and stop marrying all these wives. Do you know what I mean? That's what happens when the Mormon cult became mainstream, right? They had to suss out the crazy of their polygamy to become a quote-unquote legitimized mainstream religion, because that polygamy was a gross nature of their... Whether it's true or not, I don't know. It's a conspiracy. Obviously, there are polygamous fundamentalist Mormons, though. That's a truth. They live on compounds in Utah. We know this.
I know.
There's an amazing show that I watched, not because it's about Mormons.
Called Sister Wives?
No, called Big Love on HBO. Oh. Because it's an amazing show just for the actors. Forget about it's about Mormons. It's an amazing show that has amazing actors. Oh. That's why I watched it. But you'd think I watched it because it's about Mormons. That's not what interests me. But in a funny way, it was interesting how I knew their portrayal of polygamous Mormons versus mainstream Mormons was very accurate in that portrayal, because one of the sister wives comes from a mainstream Mormon church. But part of her rebellion from the mainstream church was to marry a fundamentalist guy. Isn't that interesting? She rebelled in the wrong direction. Isn't that funny, Brady? She rebelled in the wrong direction.
It's like when you tell a kid not to do something and then they go...
It's like with Grandma Durst. You're free to do whatever you want, guys. Okay, let's become Mormons. We need structure. Yeah. We can't just do whatever we want, well, it's our grandma. But we can't just do whatever we want, Mom. We got to rebel against your freedom. We got to bring structure to our lives. Let's become Mormon. Because the Mormon guys who came over here, who are the same religion as that pop stars we know.
Back to balance. People without structure want
It's all a balance. Life is a balancing act in every way.
Yeah.
Just why it's people's ego that is creating racism, sexism, and we're evolving through those demographic, civil rights issues as a human race all the time, because that's the way evolutionary human existence works. It's just some people are stupid and racist and sexist because they're stupid. They don't know any better. They haven't evolved yet to ask the bigger questions. It's kind of crazy. Do you have to go to work?
No, but I do have that interview tomorrow morning at 9:25.
Oh, it's 11:20 at night. I thought it was 11:20 in the morning.
Oh my God.
I lost sense of time just now.
Oh, wow.
Holy shit, that's crazy. Yeah. Because I'm so fucked up on sleep cycle. I completely didn't even...
You thought...
I'm like, Brady, you're 2 hours late for your interview.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But now I hope...
It's like waking up Saturday morning.
But Brady, you might have to wake me up.
School, but you haven't been in school for 30 years.
Yeah, but Brady, you have to wake me up maybe. I might be sleeping.
I know.
So just...
I'm getting up before that, but I do need to go to bed now.
Oh, you're going to bed now, okay.
Yeah.